Good morning, everyone. I would like to call the Niagara Police Services Board meeting to order for November 23rd, 2023. My name is Jen Lawson, and I am the Chair of the Niagara Police Services Board. We begin the meeting this morning by acknowledging that the Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawindaronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Regional Municipality of Niagara Police Services Board stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wide stewardship of the lands on which we live. We'll start with roll call. Member Gibson.
I am here.
Member Yip. Present. Member Kapasavanu.
Present.
Member McKendrick.
Here.
Member Steele.
Here.
And Member Kiokio is absent today due to an illness. Do any members have any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest? Seeing none, if I can ask for members Kapasavanu and Yip, move that the minutes of the public board meeting held on Thursday, October 19th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. Are there any questions, comments? All those in favor? No one's opposed, so that is carried. Reports from myself. I would like to officially welcome back Kevin Gibson to the Police Services Board. Member Gibson has been appointed to the board by the province for a 3-year term. He served previously on the board as a former regional councillor and mayor of Wainfleet from 2018 to 2022. Member Gibson was sworn in on November 15th and is now able to participate in all board business. He fills the position previously held by former Vice Chair Dave Eek, whose term expired on November 3rd. On behalf of my colleagues on the board, we welcome your participation and look forward to your contributions on the board. And for the board's awareness, Dave Eek will be attending the December 14th meeting for formal recognition of his time served as Vice Chair and as a member of the board. On behalf of the board, I would also like to welcome Dave Tilley to the meeting. Dave is the Inspectorate of Policing at the Ministry of Solicitor General, and he serves as Policing Services Advisor to Zone 4 police boards in Ontario. He regularly attends our meetings as part of the routine visits by Policing Services Advisors to police boards across the province. The board is pleased to see his continued attendance at our monthly meetings. At the September 28th public board meeting, I reported on 2 events that I attended with service members. They were the Beyond the Blue Champions of Change Awards Gala held on September 14th and the Canadian Police and Peace Services Officers Memorial Service held on September 24th. I would like to recognize that the Niagara Regional Police Association attended along those events with the board, police executive, and service members, which is a collective group, demonstrates our common goals to support our policing partners and to stand together at these important ceremonies. On November 1st, the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce hosted the Niagara Economic Summit, Shaping a Better Future event at White Oaks Conference Resort in Niagara-on-the-Lake. This annual event brings together government, businesses, and subject experts to discuss the issues and opportunities of Niagara's economy, and this year's topics focused on population potential, environment and climate change, and artificial intelligence. I attended the event on behalf of the board. On November 3rd, the Pathstone Mental Health Foundation hosted its annual Hope Award Gala at the Niagara Falls View Casino Resort in Niagara Falls. This event featured Canadian keynote speaker Howie Mandel, who spoke to us on his own personal mental health journey by sharing moments of his struggles and his successes. This Hope Gala also provided a forum to share Pathstone's future vision for continued improvement in the quality of life for children, youth, and families who are affected by mental health problems. In recognition of the board's sponsorship and community partnership with Pathstone, members Kapasavanu, members Kiokio, Chief McCullough, Deputy Chief Flynn, and I attended the event. On November 23rd at 3 p.m., the Coalition of Canadian Police Reform is hosting a webinar entitled The Path to Wellness, How National Training and Education Standards Will Change the Future of Policing. The Path to Wellness topic stems from the prevention of PTSD among police officers to equip them with the knowledge they need to stay healthy before they encounter traumatic events. All board members have been pre-registered for this webinar. The Canadian Association of Police Governance hosts monthly webinars as part of their educational strategy to keep police boards and police executives across Canada apprised of issues currently affecting their local policing communities. An upcoming webinar is scheduled for November 30th at 12 p.m. entitled Role of Board and Policing Culture, the Disconnect Between the Police and the Public. Board members are pre-registered for all webinars, and for those who cannot attend at a specific date or time, a copy of the recording will be sent to view at a later time. There are no committee meetings scheduled for December, and the next monthly board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, December 14th at 9:30 a.m. in the community room at Police Headquarters. And that's all for me. Any questions, comments? No? Chief, reports?
Yes, thanks, Chair. And I just wanted to extend congratulations to Member Gibson and welcome him back to the board. We look forward to working with you over the next 3 years, and also on the extension for Chair Lawson. Congratulations. I'll lead off with speaking about the Rainbow Bridge incident yesterday. As I'm sure the board is aware, we saw a very serious incident close down our border crossings yesterday following an incident at the Rainbow Bridge on the American side. All 4 of our border crossings were closed for several hours out of an abundance of caution while U.S. officials investigated the circumstances surrounding that incident. We know that it now was a serious collision that claimed 2 lives with no apparent ties to terrorism. Ultimately, involvement from our service was mainly in terms of traffic management, as we saw the impact on our roads from closing 4 international crossings. I can't stress enough the importance of official sources of information. We saw an immense amount of misinformation and speculation on both mainstream and social media platforms, which created significant and, I'll add, unnecessary anxiety within the community. We also saw how an incident such as this can very quickly attract wide-scale international attention. And I just wanted to pass along thanks to all of our sworn members and professional staff for their professionalism in responding to what was a pretty anxious couple of hours for our members, not knowing what the situation was. So again, thanks to them. On a little lighter side, I just wanted to talk about some incidents that will be happening in the month of December. This year, Shopping with a Cop or Cop Shop will take place on Wednesday, December the 6th at the Penn Center. This is always one of the most popular events with our officers, special constables, and auxiliaries, as they're paired with a child who may not otherwise be able to receive gifts at Christmas. Our members get to take the kids on a shopping spree with a $200 gift card. The Penn Center donates to the cause. A pizza lunch is provided. Again, this unique opportunity provides children from various elementary schools across Niagara to meet and spend time and engage with NRPS members. Those who participate in this event regularly express how rewarding it is to make a difference in a child's life during the holiday season. Just a little bit about the 6th annual Crama Cruiser event that's taking place here at 2 District and Headquarters in support of Project Share to support families in our community during the holiday season. This is an internal initiative that gathers food and monetary donations from our members of our service, which are then presented at the Project Share Good News Breakfast in December. Every year at this time, we know how hard it is on individuals and families that are struggling with keeping food on the table, with the rising costs of food and the food insecurity that's taking place in our community. Project Share certainly needs help more than ever, so we look forward to doing our part to be able to assist them with that endeavor. I'll just talk about the Chief of Police holiday breakfast. It's the holiday season, and the families we normally support through community care need our help more than ever. As we've done in the past, we're planning to host another Chief's holiday breakfast to generate proceeds that will go towards sponsoring families through community care and will put a smile on a child's face this Christmas morning. Arrangements are still being made, and a date will be announced shortly, and we'll be sure to pass that along to the board for their awareness, and of course they're welcome to attend. Just with respect to our 2023 homicides and attempt homicides, during our reporting period of October 14th to November 22nd, there was one homicide, and we did not have any attempt homicides during that time frame. So year to date, we are sitting on 9 homicides that we've had this year, comparatively 10 in 2022, 6 in 2021, 5 in 2020, and 7 in 2019. Just some information with regards to the homicide. On October 31st, 43-year-old Tennille Olivia Lepp was reported missing to 2 district officers. On November 1st, officers notified the public that they were searching for Lepp, who was last seen on October 25th in the area of Stanley Avenue near McLeod Road in Niagara Falls. Investigators and Tennille's family expressed concerns for her welfare. Due to the circumstances surrounding this incident, the investigation was taken over by members of our homicide unit. On November 3rd, after a ground search by members of the homicide unit, the emergency task unit, and assisted by our marine unit and canine unit, the body of an adult female was located in the area of Thundering Waters Avenue and Marine Land Parkway in Niagara Falls. On November 6th, it was confirmed that the body was that of Tennille Olivia Lepp. Investigators determined that a 46-year-old male, David Matthew Brown, was a suspect in Lepp's murder, and a Canada-wide warrant was obtained for his arrest. He was last seen in the Sudbury area on November 4th. On November 9th, with the assistance of the Greater Sudbury Police Service, David Brown was located in downtown Sudbury and arrested on the strength of the Canada-wide warrant. Brown was returned to Niagara and has been charged with second-degree murder, and he's been remanded in custody pending a bail hearing. And this remains an active investigation led by our homicide unit. Some information with regards to traffic fatalities and serious motor vehicle collisions. There were 2 fatal motor vehicle collisions during the month of October and 1 life-threatening injury. Year to date, we're trending at 16 fatalities for this year. Comparatively, in 2022, we had 18. 2021, we had 21. 2020, we had 16, and in both 2018 and 2019, we had 13 fatalities. Just some information on those fatalities. On October 18th, 3 district officers responded with Niagara EMS paramedics to a motor vehicle collision with injuries on Niagara Street, north of Quaker Road in Welland. Upon arrival, officers determined a collision had occurred involving a Toyota sedan with 2 occupants and a Ford pickup truck with 1 occupant. The pickup was northbound on Niagara Street when the southbound sedan crossed into the northbound lanes and collided with the pickup. The 69-year-old male driver of the sedan and the passenger, his 65-year-old wife, both of Waynfleet, were transported to hospital by EMS with injuries that were considered non-life-threatening at the time. The driver of the pickup truck was treated at the scene for minor injuries. Tragically, the 65-year-old female died in hospital 20 days after the accident originally occurred. The coroner advised that the female had stage 4 cancer, and the deployment of the seat belt and airbag during the collision aggravated her medical condition, unfortunately causing a fatal injury. And collision reconstruction detectives are continuing with that investigation. On October 24th, 2 district officers responded to a motor vehicle collision with injuries on Beaver Dams Road near Beechwood Road in Niagara Falls. Upon arrival, officers determined a collision occurred involving a Mercedes-Benz and a Toyota. The driver of the Toyota, a 67-year-old male from Thorold, sustained serious injuries, and as a result of the collision was transported to a local hospital by paramedics. Despite life-saving measures, tragically, he was pronounced deceased at the hospital. Investigation determined that the 25-year-old female driver of the Mercedes-Benz was impaired by alcohol at the time of the collision. She was placed under arrest at the scene by uniformed officers. She did not sustain any injuries requiring a hospitalization. 25-year-old female has been charged with impaired operation of a motor vehicle causing death and impaired operation of a motor vehicle exceeding the blood alcohol concentration, and that remains under investigation by our collision reconstruction unit. And then on October 10th, 8 district officers responded to a report of a serious single vehicle collision on Victoria Avenue north of 16 Road in West Pelham. Officers at the scene determined that a 21-year-old female was ejected from the vehicle. She was treated by Niagara EMS paramedics and Pelham Fire Service personnel. She was transported to an out-of-region hospital with life-threatening injuries, where she continues to recover. And that also remains under investigation by our collision reconstruction unit. Some other items in the news. On October 28th, 1 district officers responded to a report of an armed person at a student residence on the campus of Brock University. Upon arrival, officers learned the suspect, who's not a student at Brock, attended the campus to confront 3 known acquaintances over a previous dispute. When the confrontation took place, the suspect uttered death threats while displaying what appeared to be a black handgun. The 3 acquaintances ran for safety, locked themselves inside a dormitory. Brock University Campus Safety Services, in conjunction with our officers, issued an emergency alert advising all Brock students and staff to shelter in place. Shortly after the investigation determined the suspect left the premise in a motor vehicle and the shelter was in place was lifted. Information was received that the suspect may be inside a residence in North St. Catharines. Members of our emergency task unit, along with our K-9 unit and 1 district officers, responded and contained the address. The suspect exited the residence and surrendered himself without incident and was placed under arrest. Detectives later executed a search warrant at the residence where the involved handgun was located and determined to be a replica airsoft pellet gun. An 18-year-old St. Catharines male has been arrested and charged with the criminal code offenses of possession of a weapon, criminal harassment, uttering threats, and the accused was held in and ultimately released on an undertaking. Just a note on the, I certainly don't want to downplay the significance of it being a replica airsoft pellet gun, because these handguns, although they're not technically a handgun, look in every way to be a handgun. So, and unfortunately, we're coming into contact with these more and more frequently as our officers are out on patrol. So, detectives from 3 district and 1 district have been investigating 2 gun-related incidents in Niagara. On October 20th, at 3:18 a.m., 6 district officers responded to a robbery that had just occurred at a 24-hour convenience store located on Regional Road 24 and Regional Road 27 in Wainfleet. The store employee indicated a lone male suspect had entered the store brandishing a handgun while demanding currency and cigarettes. The suspect fired a single shot into the ceiling of the store and fled the scene prior to police arrival. The employee was fortunately uninjured. On October 30th, at 8:34 a.m., one district officers responded to an armed robbery attempt at Enterprise Rent-A-Car located on Lake Street, north of Scott Street in St. Catharines. Sorry, cliffhanger. Pages were stuck together. Officers learned that the suspect had entered the premise armed with a black handgun and demanded the keys to a rental vehicle. When the keys were not provided, the suspect fled the store on foot. Subsequent investigation by detectives resulted in a suspect being identified. On October 31st at 1:25 a.m., detectives observed a car associated to the suspect abandoned in the area of Glendale Avenue and Taylor Road in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Further investigation determined that the suspect had entered a nearby home. Officers converged on the home and contained it. Crisis negotiator was able to communicate with the suspect, who surrendered himself to officers without incident and arrested at 4:13 a.m. A 28-year-old Niagara-on-the-Lake male has been arrested, charged with robbery using a restricted firearm, 2 counts. 2 counts of disguise with intent, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm in a motor vehicle, 2 counts of pointing a firearm, possession of a restricted firearm with ammunition, possession of a firearm, weapon, or ammunition contrary to a prohibition order. And there's 9 counts of that offense. Further charges are also anticipated given the ongoing investigation in that matter. In September of 2023, the 2-district street crime unit began an investigation into the illegal manufacturing and trafficking of firearms. On November 2nd, 2023, detectives located and arrested the suspect. Detectives executed a search warrant at the suspect's residence in the area of Dixon Street and Orchard Avenue in Niagara Falls. Our detectives seized 3D printers, 3D printed handgun parts or accessories, numerous rifles, rifle parts, a handgun, magazines, and over 2,000 rounds of ammunition. A 30-year-old Niagara Falls male has been charged with the following offenses: trafficking a firearm, manufacturing firearms, possession for the purpose of firearms trafficking, possession of a prohibited device, careless storage of a firearm, careless storage of ammunition, possession of a firearm in an unlawful place. And the accused was held for a bail hearing where he was subsequently remanded in custody. So quite a theme of firearms, as you've noticed, and again, firearms are certainly becoming more and more prevalent on the streets of Niagara, unfortunately. So, thanks. Happy for any questions if you may have them.
Thank you, Chief. Board members, any questions, comments? No, seeing none. Next up, we have presentations. If I can have Records Manager Lori Switzer come up, please, where we're going to have a presentation on Central Records and Information Management Unit. This is part of our ongoing education series.
Good morning. The Records and Information Management Unit has an authorized strength of 49 members spread over 3 core areas: CPIC, criminal records, and information management. In addition, there is currently 1 accommodated uniform member who has been temporarily assigned to review all aged warrant information and make appropriate recommendations to the Crown where applicable for consideration on the withdrawal, transfer, increase on radius, or refiling of criminal charges. The CPIC section operates 24/7, following the same platoon rotation as frontline officers. The criminal records and the information management sections operate during business hours, Monday to Friday. The RIM unit is responsible for setting policy and procedures regarding the handling, use, preservation, and disposition of the service's information assets, as well as the release of information in accordance with the legislative requirements of accountability and transparency to ensure the protection of privacy and the right of access to information held by the service, while at the same time preserving the integrity of ongoing investigations, court matters, and the confidential business of the service. The RCMP's Canadian Police Information Centre System, commonly referred to as CPIC, is responsible for the communication of public safety and criminal justice information in Canada. CPIC provides the ability to quickly communicate critical public safety and criminal justice information to the law enforcement community across the country. The CPIC system has been and remains the only common communication system in Canada that connects domestic and international law enforcement communities. Maintaining the integrity of CPIC is crucial, and it's a shared responsibility among all contributing agencies. Each agency is ultimately accountable for ensuring the accuracy and reliability of the information they contribute to CPIC. This collaborative approach helps uphold the effectiveness and trustworthiness of the CPIC system, which plays a vital role in supporting law enforcement efforts and ensuring the safety and security of communities. A CPIC quality assurance review, or QAR, conducted by the RCMP is an essential process to assess and mitigate risks related to the access, use, and disclosure of CPIC information. It's important for law enforcement agencies to regularly evaluate their practices to ensure the integrity and security of the information they handle. Using established risk assessment criteria and considering contextual factors such as the mandate and scope of the law enforcement operations within the NRPS, our 2021 assessment of risk to public and officer safety and organizational liability was determined to be medium. Risk factors are identified in the chart as acceptable in green and low to medium in yellow. No high-risk factors were identified, they would be in red. The 2021 QAR report identified 4 low to medium areas which, if actioned or improved, would further reduce risk to NRPS CPIC records. An action plan to address the risk factors was implemented within 60 days of receiving the QAR report to mitigate risks. This timely and effective response demonstrated our commitment to addressing identified risks and ensuring the security and integrity of CPIC data. The Criminal Justice Information Management Disposition Reporting Application, commonly referred to as CJIM, is accessible to authorized users through the RCMP Secure Portal and permits contributing agencies to electronically input disposition information on criminal charges, thereby eliminating the need to send paper copies of these submissions. If the submission meets all RCMP Canadian Criminal Real-Time Information Services, known as secrets, business rules, the information is published to CPIC in near real time. Secrets maintains the National Repository of Fingerprint and Criminal Records. The Master Name Index is a feature of our records management system that includes the names of all persons who come in contact with the police. It serves as a central repository of names, addresses, and other identifying information. The Master Name Index is very important, and the information is only meaningful if it is accurate and complete. The more accurate the data is, the better the search results will be. In Ontario, the Police Record Checks Reform Act 2015, commonly referred to as the PRCRA, governs the types of police record checks that can be conducted for screening purposes for employment or volunteering. The Act authorizes 3 different types of police record checks which we offer to the public: criminal record check, a criminal record and judicial matters check, and a vulnerable sector check. The vulnerable sector check is intended for all applicants who will be in a position of trust or authority over children or vulnerable persons in Canada only. This means more than just having contact with children or vulnerable persons. Under the PRCRA, a vulnerable person means a person who, because of his or her age, a disability, or other circumstances, whether temporary or permanent, is in a position of dependency on others or is otherwise at a greater risk than the general population of being harmed by a person in a position of trust or authority towards them. The customer service clerks process an average of 25,000 police record checks per year. As of March 13th, 2012, the term pardon was replaced with record suspension. Record suspensions are granted, denied, or revoked by the Parole Board of Canada under the Criminal Records Act. A record suspension allows people who are convicted of a criminal offense but have completed their sentence and demonstrated that they are law-abiding citizens for a prescribed number of years to have their criminal record kept separate and apart from other criminal records. A record suspension removes a person's criminal record from the CPIC database. This means that a search of CPIC will not show that the individual has a criminal record or has received a record suspension. A biometric file destruction request only applies to adult records of non-convictions, which are criminal charges with dispositions other than convictions of findings of guilt, or for example, not guilty, acquitted, withdrawn, stays of proceedings, peace bonds, etc. Records to be destroyed are limited to biometric data only, such as the fingerprints, photographs, and the record of the disposition. Reports pertaining to the incident and the arrest will not be destroyed. These documents are subject to retention under the Services Records Classification and Retention Schedule. Youth Criminal Justice Act mandates the process in relation to the retention and destruction of a young person's fingerprints and photographs. The Canadian Centre for Justice and Community Safety Statistics, commonly referred to as CCJ-CSS, in cooperation with the policing community, collects police-reported crime statistics through the Uniform Crime Reporting Survey. The survey is designed to measure the incidence of crime in Canadian society and its characteristics. Information collected by the survey includes the number of criminal incidents, the clearance status of those incidents, and persons charged information. The UCR survey classifies incidents according to the most serious offense occurring in the incident, generally the offense which carries the longest maximum sentence under the Criminal Code. In categorizing incidents, violent offenses always take precedence over non-violent offenses. For example, an incident involving both a breaking and entering offense and an assault is counted as an incident of assault. The quality and accuracy of data submitted through to the UCR survey is imperative, as these statistics are used by all three levels of government for policy and legislative development and to aid their decisions related to the distribution of police resources, as well as being used by the public and private researchers. The Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, commonly referred to as MFIPA, is legislation that covers Ontario's municipalities and local boards, including police services. MFIPA's dual purpose is to protect privacy and provide a right of access to information held by municipal institutions. Under MFIPA, the head of the institution is responsible for overseeing the administration of the Act and decisions made under the legislation. The Regional Municipality of Niagara Police Services Board is the head as defined under the legislation and has delegated the responsibilities as head to the Chief of Police with respect to all records under the Chief's control and to the Board's Executive Director with respect to all records under the control of the Board. The day-to-day administration of the Act is carried out by the Information and Privacy Unit. Our FOI staff process an average of 1,100 FOI requests per year and typically have a fairly high extended compliance rate. It's the policy of the service that all information released from the service must be released in accordance with MFIPA and/or in compliance with other legislation such as the Police Services Act, the Criminal Code, Youth Criminal Justice Act, etc., as well as mandated policies or standards, including the CPIC Policy Manual. The disclosure clerks process an average of 190 court-issued production orders for police records per year, plus an additional 1,200 routine disclosure requests. Generally, we look to cooperate with agencies that have a law enforcement purpose as set out under MFIPA. In other words, an agency that conducts investigations or inspections that lead or could lead to proceedings in a court or tribunal where a penalty or sanction could be imposed. Each routine disclosure decision must be evaluated independently on a case-by-case basis with an understanding of the legislation or authority that supports sharing information. In this manner, we can determine what additional safeguards or other procedures, if any, might be prudent to implement, such as applying redactions or excluding certain records. As of January 1st, 2021, the NRPS no longer accepts or processes requests for motor vehicle collision reports, as these reports are now available at a nominal cost from Ontario's Ministry of Transportation, who hold the greater interest in these reports. The insurance clerk does process all other requests concerning property damage or loss reports, which on average is approximately 450 requests per year, as well as processing an additional 450 requests for MVC witness statements and officer notes per year. Accident Support Services International Limited manages the 3 local collision reporting centers in NRPS facilities, where persons involved in an MVC can self-report the collision in certain circumstances that do not require an officer to attend the scene. Approximately 3,000 MVCs are reported this way annually. In addition, there are approximately 3,400 MVCs a year that require an officer to attend. All MVC reports, whether completed by the CRC or by an officer, are uploaded to the Ministry of Transportation by CRC staff. As service members, we all have an obligation to properly document our business activities by creating complete and accurate records and by ensuring that the appropriate records relating to our work are kept in accordance with the corporate records classification system. The records that document our jobs are important assets that are owned by the service. They are not a member's to do with as they choose. Official records are managed in accordance with general orders, as they are required to support business operations, are required by legislation, protect the rights of the service and its members, provide evidence of compliance with accountability or other business requirements, or have some archival value to the service. Official records should be stored securely so that they will be readily available to those who need them and are authorized to access them. This applies to both our paper-based and our electronic work environments. Records retention schedules are designed to support effective management of the service's recorded information. Retention and disposal schedules specify how long specific records should be kept, where they should be retained and by whom, and whether they should ultimately be destroyed or preserved in an archives. They apply to all records regardless of media or format in all locations. Our record supervisors oversee the day-to-day performance of their teams and encourage them to work effectively and succeed. They foster a positive working environment by promoting employee safety, growth, and goal attainment. Our supervisors also act as a liaison between the members of their teams and upper management. All of the members of the RIM unit make up an excellent team of people who have shown during the unusual circumstances of the past 4 years their dedication, innovativeness, and perseverance, and I'm honored to work alongside of them. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Laurie. That was a great presentation. Board members, any questions or comments? Member Gibson?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Laurie. Good presentation. I'm just curious, you touched on the file retention and disposal. Could you get a couple of brief examples of that? Like somebody phones in the barking dog next door, you know, those kinds of complaints versus all the way up to the homicides and that sort of thing. Can you just give a few examples for the public?
It's a very extensive retention schedule, and it is available on the public website. So it varies, given whatever the circumstance of the offense, alleged offense is. It could be something as simple as we keep it for 2 years, or it could be something that is deemed to be kept permanently. And it's a very long list.
Okay, thank you very much. We don't need to get into it all, but sometimes you see the public say, oh, the records are gone, and depending on the incident, like you said, it could be as short as 2 years and it's disposed of, so.
That would be something that would typically be maybe where there wasn't an actual offense, but we had a call, such as assisting another police service or something along those lines. Most of our offense types will be probably at least 5 years or longer, and we calculate how to dispose of it by taking into consideration whether the individual involved has had any previous involvement. So then the retention date may get extended out so that it's kept, so that we have all records in regards to an individual.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, board members. Any other questions? Member Kapasvanu?
Through you, Chair. Thanks, Laurie, for your presentation. I just wanted to find out about the record suspension not showing up when searches are done. Is that for all offenses, and does that affect like border crossings and things like that? You know, it seems like a security risk for me.
The record suspensions are issued through the Parole Board of Canada. So if they've determined that somebody should be granted a suspension, then we do not see it on CPIC. And we actually take the records and segregate them separately because the suspension can be revoked. So if the person was to get into trouble at some point down the road, then the parole board may decide to revoke their suspension and then we reactivate. So we have to keep the records, but they are segregated and only certain people can have access to them. A record suspension does not necessarily mean that somebody will be able to cross the border. There may be information that shows up to the CBSA or the American side. It may not be showing on a criminal record, but it's located elsewhere.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have a quick question, actually, for slide 7, which was about the Uniform Crime Reports clerks. The CSI, and the question that I have is, so it appears for 2022 that our total CSI, if I'm understanding the chart correctly, means that it looks like we've done better, that we're less violent, or we have had less incidences. But did I understand that slide correctly, is the first question? So is this, we went
yes.
from a 6 to a 7?
Yes,
Okay.
this chart actually comes from CCJ CSS.
Okay, and then I guess my next point is probably either more of a point or maybe to the chief, is just to say, just because we have gone from a 6 to a 7 doesn't mean that violent crime hasn't increased everywhere else, and we just happen to be doing slightly better than somebody else. Is that correct? Go ahead.
So that's in regards to the crime severity index? Yeah, I mean, it's a sliding scale of comparing ourselves to other police services. Again, depending on the number of incidents that are occurring in any particular year, you can see minor fluctuations between a 6 and a 7, again, just depending on the types of incidents that are happening in other jurisdictions as well can cause their numbers to go down and our numbers to be higher. So it shouldn't be a cause for concern for board members fluctuating between a 6 and a 7.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? No? Thank you so much, Laurie. That was a great presentation. If I can have members McKendrick and Steele move that the presentation be received. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. If I can have Detective Sergeant Jason Myers come up. Perfect. We're going to learn about the Internet Child Exploitation Unit, known as ICE. Thank you.
There we go. Morning, board members, senior leadership team, and everybody else in the room. My name is Jason Myers. My official title is Detective Sergeant in charge of the Electronic Crimes Unit. The E-Crimes Unit is comprised of the one unit I'm going to talk about today, which is ICE, so Internet Child Exploitation. It's currently comprised of 4 detective constables, but also under my area of supervision is the Technological Crimes Unit, that has 6 detective constables and forensic video. The reason I put tech crime in there is because they're integral in the success of the ICE unit. We work very closely together. We currently occupy space jointly with the tech unit in headquarters here. This space is separate and secure from the rest of the service, mostly due to the subject matter that we deal with. I'm going to refer to CSAM, or child sexual abuse material, throughout this presentation. But that's what we look at on a daily basis, and it's important that we keep that material away and everyone else protected from that. That area, or the area we work in, was retrofitted this year in July after we expanded the sizes of our units. So tech crime got an additional 3 investigators, and the ICE unit was expanded by 1 investigator. Currently in that area, we've exhausted all of our space and work quite closely together. The ICE unit responds to internet-based crimes against children through an established police presence on the internet. And so the things we're looking for are instances of child pornography. That name is going to be changed to child sexual abuse material because the word pornography doesn't really capture what's going on out there. We respond reactively to that, and we also have proactive investigations for luring type offenses that we deal with on a daily basis. Currently, we have 4 members in the ICE unit. Mark, Jamie, Val, and Chris came to the unit with a diverse background. They all have many years of investigative warrant writing type experience. However, to be a proficient ICE investigator, they require additional training as well. So each one of those investigators have gone to the Canadian Police College and received specialized training in those areas. We also attend training through the that's provided by the provincial strategy each year, and we just hosted in Niagara Falls a provincial strategy ICE conference. It takes several years for these investigators to become proficient in this area of investigation. As you can probably tell, it's highly technical, and technology changes on a daily basis. They have to know the ins and outs of all the apps and all the things that the kids are using and all the changes. Let alone case law changes also on a daily basis, and they have to keep up to date with that as well. So there's constant updates that these investigators are required to keep up with the times. Part of their the reason why our unit works so well is because we're part of a provincial strategy. So the real name is Provincial Strategy to Protect Children from Sexual Abuse and Exploitation on the Internet, a United Team Approach. So the team approach is extremely important because, as you know, the internet spans the world. We take cases in Niagara that originate from wherever. We conduct investigations here in Niagara that point to offenders that live in many places around the world. So if we don't have a team approach, we can't effectively combat this issue. So in Ontario, there's more than 20 police services that are part of this provincial strategy, which also, as you can see, goes into corroborates as well with the national strategy and then international strategies around the world. Some of our partners are police services, obviously in Canada and the United States, Canadian Border Services, our agency, Homeland Security, FBI, RCMP, and any international police agencies. One of our primary partners is the, actually I'll get to that in a minute. So with this strategy, we're lucky enough to get some provincial funding as well. So currently we're in a funding agreement with the province between 21 and 2025. So the number is $677,000 spread over 4 years. That money supports 2 of the ICE investigators in the unit. So what it pays for is specialized equipment, training, and travel throughout the province. And the bigger chunk of that goes towards one of the members of our tech crime unit. So they pay for the salary of that person, also specialized equipment, training, and travel costs. So one of our primary partners is the RCMP, and what the RCMP runs is called the Ocean Network. There's lots of acronyms here, so we'll just keep it with Ocean. Ocean is technically it's a clearinghouse for all the complaints that we receive in Canada. So major corporations like Microsoft, Google, Meta, and all the other providers like Snapchat, they constantly monitor their platforms for instances of CSAM or child sexual abuse material. Once they see something on their platform that's illegal, they report that to whatever jurisdiction that they're in. One of the things that they report on is usernames and profiles, and also IP addresses. So IP address is a number that's assigned to a physical device. So if you have a computer on your desk and it's connected to the internet, that computer would have an IP address. And to get access to the internet, you have to have a provider. So there would be like Rogers or Bell or whoever. So they would assign that IP address to a computer, and someone in the Niagara region pays for that service. So that's kind of how, that's the start of or the basis of our investigations. Ocean is important to us, which comes from the National Child Exploitation Crime Center run by the RCMP. So we'll do a test later on all the acronyms. Here's a pretty staggering slide for you to everyone to consume here. So it's a national epidemic. It's actually a worldwide epidemic. So if you look at the numbers, the number of incoming reports to the National Child Exploitation Crime Center in 2011 was just over 6,000. And in 2019, it was just under 103,000. So those would be instances of people uploading, sharing child sexual abuse material online. So that's Canada-wide. Just to put that in perspective, in 2019, there was 68,000 police officers in Canada. So if every single police officer took one of those cases to investigate, it wouldn't be enough. So what are we doing in Niagara? Here's our workload. So I'm going to talk a little bit about investigations. We've got many sources of investigations, but over the last 4 years, we're pretty steady around 80, the mid-80s, 85, 84. 2022, we lost some federal funding, so we went down one member. In 2023, we've added another member to the unit, so we're back up to 4. Arrests have been 21 for 2020, 16 for 2021, 18 in 2022, and 13 so far this year. And then the ocean referrals, so those are the from the previous slide, our share of referrals here in Niagara for 2020 was 148. 2021 was a big year with 318. 246 last year, and we're up to 200 so far this year. So those are all spread amongst the 4 different investigators. We have many sources of investigations as well, not just from ocean. So that's the big one that we get. However, there's also uniform officers that attend calls on a daily basis. We've seen a huge increase in sextortion, so people using images of kids that they've taken or shared of themselves online and using that against them to either for money or for additional images. We've got kids all over the place that take pictures and videos of themselves and send them around through group chats. Constant complaints through the schools in the area about that, and that's one of the other things we deal with. Cybertip.ca is also another source of referrals, so we get complaints, anonymous complaints through there. We also do proactive investigations as well, and just recently one of our members received some advanced training to allow us to enter that realm. So we monitor peer-to-peer sharing sites for people that are sharing child sexual abuse material. And we can also do proactive luring investigations now, where we go on and try and intercept people that are contacting youth for arrangements to meet in person for sexual contact. The other thing, we get a lot of referrals from the States too for through the Homeland Security. Recently, there was an Ohio investigation where an undercover officer in the States was talking with someone that lived in Niagara. The person in Niagara was planning to meet with family members over the weekend and offend against them, record those offenses, and send it back to the undercover officer in Ohio. So we were able to intercept that person within 24 hours, and he was in custody for those offenses. But that just goes to show the importance of a team approach across not just Ontario or Canada, but across the world. How do we do our investigations? They're lengthy. What we do is we receive information from Ocean, or from the RCMP that includes an IP address. That IP address is then the subject of a production order, so we have to actually write a legal document to Bell or Rogers or TELUS, that asks them to tell us who the subscriber for that IP address is. That's a 30-day waiting period that we have. Once we get the subscriber information, we have to do physical surveillance on the address to make sure those people still live there or their suspects are potentially still there. Once we determine that, then the officer has to write a search warrant to actually go in and search the residence. Once we have that in hand, we assemble a team of ICE unit and tech crime unit investigators to go into the unit or into the residence or wherever it is and seize devices. So I got a couple examples with me. So these are two 2-terabyte hard drives and cell phones or computers, anything around that can contain data or capable of storing data is what we're authorized to go in and seize. So once we seize those devices, we bring them back here. Our tech crime officers use their special tools to get into those devices and extract every single image and video from the device, and they also try and attribute that device to a person that's living in the house, which becomes very important. We have to try and identify who the actual person in that residence is that's responsible for it. The hard thing is every image and video that's extracted has to be viewed by an investigator. The reason for that is to identify victims and also determine if the images and videos meet the definition of child pornography, and those numbers become important with prosecution. Once we identify a suspect and know that we have material on the devices, and we can effect an arrest, and that just starts the court process, which, as we all know, is quite long. The big thing for our investigators is the categorization. Oops, I missed a slide there. Categorization of images and videos. So one of these drives contains two terabytes of information. So a 1 terabyte drive can contain up to 200,000 images or 500 videos. And the biggest seizure we've had so far in Niagara is 9 terabytes of data. So these people are able to, for like $150 for 2 terabytes, store massive amounts of child sexual abuse material. This next slide shows you as an example of the specialized software that we use. So just to give you an example, I've got 2 investigators right now that are sitting at their desks for days and weeks at a time looking at tiles of images. So the green in this picture are all individual images that would have been taken off a device that we have seized from someone's house. So the investigator would have to go through that page by page and look at those tiles to determine if any of them met the definition of child pornography, and then we can categorize those into number 1, 2, or 3, which we can present later on. So it's hard to see, but for this specific case, there were 501,000 images and 2,500 videos that the officers had to go through and look at. Member wellness is an issue, so our detectives are constantly exposed to extremely graphic and disturbing images of child sexual abuse material. These images and videos have included victims as young as infants and toddlers. Prior to appointment into the unit, the officers have to go through a psychological assessment and then yearly check-ins. We've got a very close-knit team. We constantly take wellness breaks, flexible schedules, team support, and constant monitoring have helped to prolong the effective time of these highly trained and specialized investigators. In addition to these investigations we do, we also perform community outreach. So that's in the form of social media campaigns and also face-to-face presentations with school-aged children, sports teams, school officials, parents groups. So this year we've been able to reach out to 600 plus individuals and talked with them face-to-face. Most of the messages that we try and get out to these kids is that it's never a good idea to take a naked video or image of yourself, and it's even worse idea to send it to someone. So if we could just stop our kids from doing that, that would cut down our workload quite a bit. So where are we at right now? So if we look at the length of time of each investigation, the complexity, and all the investigative sources, Right now, we have, it's actually 497 unassigned referrals for motion right now. And we get an average of 5 new cases per week. So those 494, they don't include all the uniform referrals or all the cyber tips or our proactive investigations. Cyber tip gives us about 2 per week. Uniform members from schools and other reports throughout the community give us things that we need to respond to. And then also our proactive investigations take up a whole bunch of time. So currently we have 54 active investigations that are split between our 4 assigned investigators. I went over a bunch of stuff here in the slide. I mean, there's probably going to be a few questions, but I'm open for anything from that you'd like me to explain a little bit more.
Thank you. That was a great presentation, very eye-opening. Any comments or questions? Member Gibson?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. How is AI going to influence this over the coming years? That's going to be a complexity that is going to be very hard to deal with, I'm sure.
Yeah, so all the vendors for the categorization software, we're presenting on that at the conference I was just at. So they're going, hopefully it's going to make our lives a little bit easier as far as the categorization part of it, where they can automate a lot of the things to help speed up that. Because that's what takes the most amount of time, is to sit in front of the computer and actually view these images and videos. So I think it's going to be a benefit, but it's also going to be a hindrance, because we just don't know how that's going to advance and enable these offenders to carry on in different ways. It's basically it's an unknown right now, so it's really hard to comment on.
Thank you. Member Capsavanu?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm just going to ride on that A1 thing, considering that A1 is actually adding a complexity to this whole complex thing already. You've got apps like deepfake that create deepfake porn, right, for kids. And, you know, when you're going into the schools and you're talking to kids about sending naked images of themselves, we've gotten to a point where they don't have to. They just, people who have access to deepfake and deep porn and whatnot can create pornographic videos as long as they've got a face that they can superimpose on somebody. Yep. So my question is, are we actually equipped as a service to deal with that? And when you're looking at your categorization software, is it able to pick up, deep porn and things like that?
That brings up a larger point. The laws also have to catch up with that. So if you have a face of a person imposed on another person's body, that doesn't technically meet the definition of child pornography. So we need to, that needs to catch up to what's going on out there. It just brings out a whole other host of questions about the responsibility of these giant corporations allowing this to happen on their servers or on the services they provide. We have had instances of deep fakes here, and it's more of a support, educational type thing that we take on, knowing that we wouldn't be able to prosecute in the form of that child pornography window there.
And just as a follow-up, you're right, the criminal code in Canada does not cover deepfakes. So what do you think we should do as advocacy to have that changed within the torts of the law?
That's above and beyond me. I mean, the instances of child sexual abuse material is a vast worldwide problem at this point. I mean, we're able to respond to what we can respond to, and hopefully assist the victims that we're able to here in Niagara. But I mean, we work with the tools that we currently have right now, and hopefully we're able to make some sort of impact here in Niagara with that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Member McKendrick?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, but also thank you to you and the team for doing this work, and good to see there's, not good to see, sad to see that there's such a need for reactivity, but also good to see there's a lot of proactivity and being able to prevent and intervene earlier. So thank you to you and the team. It's emotionally impactful just looking at graphs and listening to it, so I can't even imagine. So one of my questions was going to be what was in place to support the team, and you've answered that. And I guess as a board member, I'm wondering, is that enough? And is there anything further that could be done to support the team who's doing this very, very hard and impactful work?
There was a few things that were presented at our conference that are up for consideration, and I've thought about those as well, but they potentially could be subject to another presentation to the board later on. So I'll just leave it at that. So there are things that we can do that will help us out.
Thank you. Member McKendrick's going to ask another question.
So thank you for that. I'm wondering how it works when individuals are using devices that are not theirs. I'm thinking of public places like libraries or where people can access devices that aren't necessarily theirs, and wondering how that works.
Yeah, we have the biggest issue is we have to attribute put a person behind the screen, so that becomes harder. So if people are logging in with certain accounts, if there's corresponding like surveillance video that puts them there, that would all be things that we would look at in an investigation to try and attribute that to the actual person behind the screen. The big issue is end-to-end encryption. So you can send an image from one device to another device, and the provider in between has no idea what that is. So that's a huge issue, like for something like Snapchat, and also for those images and messages to disappear within 24 hours. So that's a huge problem that we deal with, just not being able to capture that information or capture that evidence because it's gone or it was never there in the first place.
Member McKendrick?
So just as a follow-up to that, would it be suggested to places that are supporting or supplying devices on loan that they have some sort of login to be able to identify individuals so that they can help support and contribute to proactive preventative pieces?
Yeah, we've got a lot of school-issued computers and stuff that we've uncovered during our search warrants. So, yeah, when they're assigned to a specific person, we need to identify who the person is that is using it, that's logged in, and what the accounts are, who the accounts come back to hold them accountable.
Last question. For those who don't necessarily know the acronyms or the cybertips.ca's, or what's the simplest, easiest way that a member of the public could report? Because I imagine if it's not an immediate concern, we don't want to encourage use of the 911 system.
Yeah.
So is there a simple public access to encourage reporting?
Yeah, so the online resources are very good right now. So the Canadian Centre for Child Protection runs a website that has a vast amount of resources available, and under that umbrella is cybertip.ca, which allows for anonymous online reporting. And there's another website called Need Help Now that we direct kids to, where they can actually reach out on their own if they don't feel comfortable reporting it, and reach out to the service providers and ask for the images, videos, or accounts to be taken down. And there's a huge network as well to support victims of this and help them move forward.
Thank you, Member Gibson.
Thank you, Chair, through you. As I look at this and I see the numbers increasing here on the one chart from 2011 at 6,000 to 2019 at 102, and with our number of outstanding cases that are not even assigned yet, from a board perspective, I'm guessing that this is something that in the future we'll be having to increase resources to, increase staff members to. Obviously, you need more staff, and it's obviously, to me, appears evident that we need to build on this unit.
Yeah, I'm just going to refer that back to the chief.
Thanks, Jay, and thanks for the question, Member Gibson. As the board's aware, and as Jay indicated, we've increased our capacity within the unit in previous program changes that have been supported by the board. As you witnessed during the presentation, the numbers are increasing. We're still in a position, unfortunately, where we need to triage the incoming work to focus on the most egregious cases. Obviously not ideal. We'll continue to look at the needs of the unit and the units who support them, such as our tech crimes unit, and as we bring forward business cases to the board, your ongoing support for those business cases would certainly be appreciated by the unit and I think by the community as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members? Thank you. That was a great presentation, very eye-opening and informative. And I hope that members of the public who are watching this can see the requirements and the needs for, unfortunately, for more policing. And it's not really that we need more policing. We need people to be doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is not creating these situations where we need more police officers. So thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome, thanks.
Thank you. If I can have members Gibson and Kapasavanu move that the presentation be received. All those in favor? No one's opposed, so that is carried. We'll move along to, oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Member
if I could just clarify the one question that you had with regards to the crime severity index chart.
Please.
The ranking number, which is what you were speaking of, is that can fluctuate. I think the numbers that I think are perhaps a little bit more concerning for the board that you should be aware of. The total crime severity index, in fact, from 2021 to 2022, the total crime severity index, our numbers actually went down. But if you look at the violent crime severity index, the middle column, our numbers, if you look at 2020, where it was 58.8, has gone up to 66.5. So that's the number that's, I think, is the most concerning for the board and the most concerning for the public. And not surprising, based on some of the incidents that I reported on during my earlier remarks, we're seeing that increase in violent crime play out on a fairly regular basis, unfortunately, in our community.
Thank you for clarifying that. Looking back on the slide again, I think that's also part of what I was trying to flush out, where we were ranked 7th at 58.8 in 2020, but we were also ranked 7th in 2022 at 66.5, which of course the number did go up. So it just indicates that while it looks like we may have gone up or down, it's really not the actual, the real indicator. So thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions, comments? No? We'll move on to consent agenda. So if we can move items 8.1 to 8.8 in block. And if I can have members Steele and second by member Gibson move that the information be received. Perfect. Any questions, comments? No? All those in favor? No one's opposed, so that is carried. New business under 9.1 and 9.2 are special fund requests. So before we consider these requests, I would like to remind the members of the public that the special fund does not form part of the police operating budget and is separate from the regional tax base. The special fund is a discretionary pool of funds which is used for grants and donations. Disbursements from the fund are made in accordance with the guidelines provided in the Police Services Act and with the Board Bylaw 376-2018, Special Fund Administration Limitations and Guidelines. So for 9.1, if I can have members Yip and Kapasavanu move that the board approve a donation in the amount of $1,500 from the special fund for the purchase of a table of 10 for police representation at the Association of Black Law Enforcers Scholarship and Awards Gala. This was a special fund request that, due to the timing of the event, the board had pre-approved it due to an e-poll on October 31st. So the matter is before the board for just ratification. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. 9.2, special fund request. If I can have members Steele and McKendrick move that the board approve a donation in the amount of $1,500 from the special fund to the Out of the Cold dinner program. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? No one's opposed, so that is carried. Do any board members have any other new business? No? Chief?
No, I do not. Thanks.
Perfect. There are no in-camera reports. And with that, the Police Services Board will adjourn the public portion of this meeting and reconvene in camera for consideration of confidential matters pursuant to Section 35(4) of the Police Services Act. Thanks, everyone.